In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, our one true God. We had a lot of positive reaction in our video about Pius XII, the pompous man who loves to be picked up by 12 men on a bier, and on the bier is a throne, and on the throne is he, Pius XII. This man must really think that he is a pope, that he is infallible or something. But I'm going to show you how the probability of him being anything but holy by bringing up a comparison between Pius XII, who died in 1958, just 67 years ago. You remember that, or that's too old. But I remember it. And someone who died about the same time, 8 years later, in 1966, one of our bishops of the Russian Church abroad, St. John Maximovitch. We'll start by talking about the funeral of Pius XII, the Pope. Because always in the Church there is that holy saying which says, "Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints." His saints have a holy repose, but the heretics have an ugly repose. So how can we contrast this to show everybody? Well, who do we know that had an ugly repose? Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Christ. And this is, it's the same thing as these popes. They are betrayers of Christ because they don't teach the orthodoxy of Christ. They teach papism. And I enumerated all those various doctrines that are foreign. So Judas, this man, it says in the scriptures, in Acts, indeed, acquired for himself a field out of the wages of unrighteousness, because he sold Christ for 30 pieces of silver. And those 30 pieces of silver bought a field of blood, they called it. And having fallen face downwards, he broke with a crash. So this man, he tried to hang himself, and it didn't work. He despaired and tried to hang himself, but it didn't work. But maybe at the time, he fell when he tried to hang himself. And then he bursted. And there was a crash in the midst, and all his inward parts poured out. He fell headlong and burst asunder in the midst, and all his bowels gushed out. Acts of the Apostles, chapter 1:16. Okay, who else do we know that had such a horrible death? A person called Arius. Arius, the first great Heresiarch of the church. A great sad story. Arius, who just wanted to be in communion with those who were Orthodox so he could say that he was Orthodox, but he wasn't. He was saying that Christ is a creature, and there was a time when Christ did not exist, and that the Father is greater than him, and he would not keep the Orthodox faith. And so He was on his way to a big celebration with the Orthodox, where he tricked Constantine the Great. We know the story. And he said, on the way, a procession on the way, he said, excuse me, I have to go to the latrine. I'll be right back. And he went to an outhouse there in Constantinople. And there he burst asunder. And that's where he ended up his life, in a filthy place, because his body bursted. Just like Judas, his body blew up and all his entrails fell. And the people were waiting, and they're waiting, and they say, hey, someone go in and see what happened to him. And that's when they say, hey, there is no more Arius, he's dead. Well, this past week, I was sent this email. Did you know about the funeral procession of Pius XII? And here it is. It's on the internet. All of this material is on the internet. Pius XII, as a funeral procession, carried Pius's body through the streets towards St. Peter's Basilica. A loud pop was heard from within the casket. It was his body exploding from the pressure of the gases emanating from his decomposing organs. Does everybody know this? Well, it's common knowledge if it's knowledge that's available. It was a very embarrassing moment for the Roman Catholic. When I say Roman, that's just Rome. Catholic, which means universal. It's a contradiction. How can you be Roman and then Catholic? But I'm stressing Roman Catholic. The scheduled viewing had to be abruptly postponed while his body was treated again. And when it was finally laid out, the faithful were forced to maintain their composure in the presence of an emerald green pope. Quote unquote, an emerald green pope. His body had been treated once more during the event, and the guards keeping watch over the body fainted from the stench. So, more details. When Pius was embalmed, now it is forbidden for Orthodox Christians to be embalmed. We do not embalm our bodies, but not so with the popes. They have to be embalmed as quickly as possible. This is not done with Orthodox Christians because our bodies are holy. We are a temple of God. You can't take the temple of God, rip out his organs, flush out his blood, and throw it down the sewer. No. This is not possible. And we don't need to be embalmed. Orthodox Christians have no need to be embalmed. But sometimes if you carry the body over a state border, the laws of the land requires that a body be embalmed. I think there's a lot of laws like that. Well, Pope Pius, the funeral procession was marked by an unexpected and rather infamous incident. Quote, the Pope's body exploded during a public viewing. And they tried to mitigate it by saying, it's only because it was a hot day in Rome that caused the gases to build up within the body, leading to an quote, dramatic explosion on the fourth day of the viewing. Oh, really? As if the gases were kind of like constrained. There are not a lot of openings, so to speak, that the gases may leave the body if he was decomposing in such a rapid manner. No, they said the gases just built up, and there was no way for the gases to escape the body, couldn't come out. The incident involved the Pope's body, quote-unquote, exploding, and his nose and fingers fell off. And the overall scene seemed rather grotesque, I could imagine. Another statement: despite the incident, the Vatican attempted to continue the public viewing with a wax mask and other interventions to cover up or mask the damage of the explosion. And I think we have a picture. We took a screenshot of a video that I think after the second time they treated the body, because they knew a lot of people were going to, there were thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, I would say, coming to venerate this Pope. And his body exploded, so they had to cover it up somehow. They couldn't tell what, half a million people. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not going to show the Pope. He exploded. No, they're not going to do that. So they covered him with wax. And we have a screenshot of a video. The Vatican quickly intervened to salvage the remains and rushed the burial in the crypt of St. Peter's Basilica. Another account: the incident caused significant distress and embarrassment, and the Vatican quickly took steps to address the situation. The incident is a notable event in papal funeral history, known for its unexpected turn of events. People fainted. The guards had to be rotated because the smell was unbearable. All photos of the Pope, of the Pope's head, were sanitized. All real photos were banned and put under restriction. Because look, he lost his nose and probably his eyes too. What a sight that would have been. So they put him in wax. And they said, here's your Pope. But they couldn't stop the smell. So what did they do? Of course, they put him in 3 coffins. First one is cypress. The second one was lead. Then they sealed it. Maybe finally the smell, which caused people to faint, was stopped. And then they put him in another coffin. And what did they do? That coffin was made out of elm wood. Who ever heard of someone being buried in 3 coffins? Doesn't that tell you something? Doesn't that tell you something? This can't be the church. Was Christ buried in a coffin? No. Was St. Peter buried in a coffin? No. Is a coffin absolutely necessary for a person to be buried in? And the answer is no. This is an account of the explosion of Pope Pius XII, whom people thought was such a holy person. They gathered by the hundreds of thousands to pay their last respects to him. But he was a pompous, wretched man who knew and said and probably gave his blessing to the genocide in Croatia and in Serbia. And we showed you last week the priests of his church taking off his clerical garment and putting on his uniform as a soldier to kill. And there are nuns also who did the same thing. Convents. The nuns became murderesses of babies. I don't want to talk about how they killed people. But let's contrast this with someone that died, St. John Maximovitch, someone that died 8 years after Pope Pius. And I guarantee you, all the people in the funeral industry knew what happened to Pius, how he blew up, and his body became green, emerald green, an ugly sight, because the man is a pope. He's unholy. But in June 19, or July 2, according to the, and that's the middle of summer. It was hot. 1966, during a visit to Seattle with the holy icon of the Kursk route. Did we want to put that up so everybody can see it? St. John had this icon, and he visited our parish in Seattle. Vladika John peacefully gave his soul to the Lord, whom he had served so faithfully during his earthly life. St. John is one of our bishops. He's a holy person. He was a confessor. I won't tell you what he thought of Roman Catholicism or even Pope Pius XII. He was the complete opposite. He knew what Pius did to the Serbian people, and St. John had great love for the Serbian Orthodox people. Okay, after he died in Seattle, Washington, his unembalmed, it says unembalmed. Of course, if it's forbidden for a layperson, how much more is it forbidden for a clergyman? You don't embalm a body. His unembalmed body was flown to San Francisco. Okay, how did they do that? Hey, they rushed and changed the laws so that the body, the unembalmed body of the Archbishop of San Francisco could be flown to San Francisco from Seattle. The people in Washington changed the ordinances so he could be put on a plane. He had an unembalmed body. And when he came to San Francisco, he was brought to his cathedral. For 6 days, it was in the cathedral in an open coffin, while thousands of faithful came to say their last farewell. And what did they do? How do you say your farewell to an Orthodox bishop? You come up to him and you kiss his hands, because his hands are covered like this on his body. You come up and kiss him. What did they do to popes? You stay 20, 30 feet away, because we don't want you to see his ugly decomposition. So, thousands of people came. For 6 days, the cathedral was open day and night, and the coffin was open. And it was in the middle of July in San Francisco. Even after 6 days, it was noticed that there was no sign of decay. No sign of decay. But they wanted to bury him downstairs in the cathedral. So they had to change the laws. And that's what they did. St. John was laid to rest in a small basement chapel under the altar of the cathedral. After the San Francisco Board of Supervisors amended the city law to permit the burial of our holy Archbishop John to be buried in his cathedral. They amended the law. How wonderful. And that place underneath his cathedral became a place of pilgrimage. And we were there many times. And then after, 28 years, we uncovered his relics. And we have a picture of what he looked like after 28 years when there was the glorification. The Russian Church officially proclaimed him as a saint. And we have that picture. Look at him. He is totally incorrupt. No embalming. What's the difference? And what did we do with that body? We kept it in the cathedral, in a casket that you can see him, which probably they had to put a glass over it, but it's there in the cathedral so you could see his incorrupt relics. Anybody going into the cathedral can, on the right side, see his shrine. And there is his casket with a glass cover so you could see him. Okay, when they uncovered his relics, he looked like he just fell asleep. There was no decomposition anywhere. The Archbishop then decided at that time, hey, we have a Russian tradition that you're supposed to coat the body with wine. I don't know where he got that from, but he did it. And as soon as he put wine and alcohol on the body, it turned dark. And that's why now it's somewhat dark. But you could see his hands, his skin, totally incorrupt, like the saints of old. And the Orthodox Christians venerate the incorrupt bones, the incorrupt body of saints. And they are a source of miracle for us. So, the people in the cathedral, and they distribute these things to Orthodox bishops, and now relics or portions of his incorrupt body can be found in many countries in Europe, South America, America for sure, the many states, and we have a small portion of St. John's incorrupt relics. So this is the contrast now. You see a holy person who believed in orthodoxy like we do. He was canonical. And if he were alive today, I guarantee you, if he was alive today, he would be part of our church. He would be Archbishop of the genuine Orthodox Church of America. Why? Because it's the same faith of the Russian Church abroad that he was a member of. He was canonical, just like we are canonical. So now you see, I hope this was an informative contrast for you to see. What's the conclusion I want you to think about? Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. And horrible in the sight of the Lord is the death of those who oppose him, like Judas, like Arius, like Pope Pius XII. But precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. Look at the glorious repose of St. John Maximovitch. Okay, and he has helped us. He's alive as far as we are concerned because he helps us. Oil from his lamp, oil blessed over his relics. We send it all over the world, and people find healing from it. All right, the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. Thank you. Thank you for listening.